And I believe that, we both educators, and it gets hard to educate people who don't know how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to teach people about themselves allow them to learn anything after that.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they also make the right decision on what to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we want to learn things, like I said, connected to our weaknesses. Everybody's not gonna learn crypto and Web3 and
Mm-hmm.
stocks and setting up a trust and all of these different myriad of financial things that we teach them. And it's not that they can't learn them; it's that they're not good at learning them.
Mm-hmm.
You understand me? Until they learn themselves. Number one. So it's like for you, I know for a fact when it comes to trading and investing, emotional intelligence is the most important.
Yes.
If you don't have that, then you're going to lose and you're going to be guided by what you feel instead of
Mm-hmm.
what you think.
Mm-hmm.
So the thinking system is how you operating in the investing and the trading world.
Mm-hmm.
So getting people to operate on an emotional intelligence system first will require them to have knowledge of how to do that. Then they plug that in and say that, okay, I don't move my emotions with the market. No, I got principles, I have plans, and I
Mm-hmm.
execute, and then that's it. So now they're a much more qualified human being to go into these fields that we're teaching them. And us being, high level scientists, we have to go into these fields of study. You're not going to see too many, even some of our peers, they're not going into this level of thinking because they may just want money, 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 money,
Mm-hmm.
money. They're not thinking impact, 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 impact,
Mm-hmm.
efficiency, effectiveness. How do I really change the minds of these people so they now get to a point where there's an inflection point where we finally reach where it's a system that's working on itself.
Mm-hmm.
The generations' habits have switched from spending to investing to ignorance to enlightenment. Because we happy being at 85%, the blind, deaf,
Mm-hmm.
and dumb. How many people are ready to actually go into that high level to where they say, I now have control over myself?
Mm-hmm.
And any level of slavery makes you a slave. So if you don't have control of your mind and will, you a slave at. So it's people, we think of it, well, I'm not a chattel slave, I'm not a prisoner. You can be a slave as long as you don't have control of your mind and your will.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things that rob us and take us away
Mm-hmm.
from self-control, power, discipline, focus, and the ability to transmute thoughts. Because a man is measured by his ability to take his thoughts out of his mind and produce his will in reality.
Yeah, and also being able to use that data of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like we haven't been good at tracking data of ourselves, right? Like we're good at seeing another person's flaws. We're good at, some people are good at clapping from the stands, but
Yeah.
not planning a game, right? One of the things I've been heavy on myself for is learning the data, like learning who I am, which is why therapy came in important
Yeah.
for me, right? Like I needed to uncover, like okay, I had to be aware. One of the things I was aware of was this. For a large part of my life, I was like, when I ain't ever met my daddy, I don't know him, I'm good, right? We got into a situation where maybe 2018, where my mom's called me and she's like, Leon, look, your daddy about to pass away. He wants to see you, right? And in that moment, I said, he got to die like that. So he don't need to see me. Say at the time I was 33 years old, 33, 34, something like that. I was like, look, I got a little one. There's nothing I wouldn't do for my little one. So I'm not understanding why I was homeless. I'm not understanding why I went to prison and he wasn't there. I'm not understanding none of these situations. Now he wants to see him in his deathbed. Now he wants to get right with himself and leave me with these questions, right? So in that moment, it was easy to make that decision, right? I made that decision, again, knowing who the old version of me was, right? The old version of me, power. If I go into that situation, if once he dies, I ain't powerless because I got a bunch of questions that you can't answer, right? Fast forward, I'm talking to my therapist and I said, listen, I now realize that there's a part of me that is mad that I never met him because I have ways about me that I know didn't come from my mom. And because I never met him, I have this information that I can't do nothing with. And that is a vulnerable space for me. right? That's being conscious of the data that I have about myself, right? Yep, not having a father made me a great father, but there were some things that I got from him that I now can never, you feel what I'm saying? Like, and so we're good at looking at everybody else's formula, but we're not good at looking at our own data.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me to be the best educator and to be the most impactful, I want to do three things. I want to look at my data, I want to look at my people's data, and then I want to present a solution based on the data. That is an educational formula for me, right? If I can look at my data and say, okay, Trav, this is what your strengths are, this is what your weaknesses are, this is what you gravitate to, this is what you stay away from. Okay, cool. Now I understand my teaching method. I understand, okay, like you're energetic, you are powerful, your voice, you articulate, right? So I understand who I am.
Yeah.
So now I say, okay, here's my people, here's my audience, here's who I want to connect to, right? What's their data, right? And so now I do a series of posts, polls, whatever, so I can learn the people who I want to educate. And so now what I can do is take their data and say, now I create messages to touch them based on the data they've given me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's how we become like the most impactful, right? Not doing stuff from what I want to do, but based on the people's needs.
Right. That gets me to the idea of valuable knowledge versus new knowledge.
Yeah.
A lot of times, we give a person new knowledge, but it's not valuable to them.
Exactly.
Right. And so, new knowledge, you could tell me about, I don't know, anything. I just got me a new car. That's new knowledge, but it's not valuable to me.
Right.
So the valuable knowledge, like you said, is making sure that you're giving them things that actually impactful to their lives and applicable to their situations. Because, as a teacher, it's like once you go high level, you can go over somebody's head.
Oh yeah.
And don't get me wrong, it's important to have high level conversations because otherwise you starve the people at the high level, right? To just focus on the low level. But then you never give them a goal or where to reach to understand. Because I've had people say, yo, I watched one episode 3 times to understand 50% of it, right? So now go watch it another 6 times, you'll get 100% of it. So I'm giving you a benchmark to reach. You understand me? But when it comes to, there's something called the curse of knowledge. It's the teacher's inability to teach at the student's level, right? And they can only teach at their level. And so I've always looked at that idea to make sure that I'm not going far beyond where my audience is. Otherwise, I lose them.
You lose them.
Being able to, intelligence is, now we look at it in regard to make difficult things simple. If I can break this down in a manner to where a 3rd grader can understand it, then I can teach it universally to where all people can understand it, right? So now I'm teaching at the highest level by breaking it down to a simplest level, right? So you always want to have data loss when you do that because you can't add in all the details, but you simplified the analogy, the idea, the concept enough to where when you can present that, they can download something new. Now, once they get to a higher level and they understand the nuances, the details, now they can take it from what its root is. Right? And now they have the ability to become like you. But as long as I have to, it's like an adult have to eat the food, chew it up, feed it to the baby, right? You're never going to be the adult. You're always going to be baby fed. Once you have the ability to take the root of it, chew it for yourself and digest it so that you can get the full absorbed nutrient of whatever that information or knowledge is, now you at that master level.
So the importance in that for me is with my brand and who I present, like even now when I make decisions in my life, the decisions I make, I always say to myself, and this may be good, it may be bad, but how does this represent the brand?
Now that's good.
Right? Like how does this, I wanted to put something up yesterday and my COO was on side of me and she said, that's not a good look for the brand.
But
I'm
on edge with that.
No. But I wanted to say something. It was, I wanted to say this, and I'm gonna say it. I can say it on high level conversation, right? Yeah. I said, this may be harsh, but some people are meant to settle. I said because success and new thinking requires more than motivation.
That feels on brand.
You feel me?
That feels on brand. But I think about trap
Right.
because sometimes you hit people with a harsh
Yeah.
settlement of reality.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
resets them like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need that. So that's why I was gonna say that I'm on edge with that
Right.
because sometimes once you ask somebody else, you filter in the thoughts you already know is right.
Yeah.
And you're only asking somebody so that they can pull you away from it.
Right.
You understand me? So I like that's my thing is being at the edge.
Right.
And I'm already a lot. So sometimes I have to
and that was me. In my mind, I'm like, I know I already be a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I know sometimes you look at me like, damn. And so I didn't want to, and I know why she said that, because she was like, you always give people hope. And I always have said that when my audience sees me, I want them to say, that's the level I'm coming up to. Like Trap went from here and got here. He didn't tell me, he didn't leave one step out the way to how he got there. Right? He always told me the steps. And from her mind, from how she looked at it, it was, I'm giving them a step backwards. Right? But I like to be harsh. Because what I think what's happened in the world a lot of times is people walk away from harsh truths.
Yeah.
Right? And so I said, like, yo, like, this is harsh, but like the reason why some people are made to settle, it's not that you're made to settle, but settling is where you'll be at in life. Is because 1, you don't want to be competitive. 2, you don't want to believe in yourself. 3, you want to be anchored to the past that kept you there. Right? 4, you love to be the victim. And 5, it's gonna take more than motivation.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I always say like, I'm not the person to motivate you. Because all I needed for myself for motivation was to look at where I came from.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing
Motivation
against nobody
without
that
instruction.
Yeah, like nothing against nobody. Like me and ET are cool. Great motivational speaker, great information. But I'm not the motivator. Right? I'm that person who's gonna give you the information to take these steps to do 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna give you structure, I'm gonna give you frameworks. The motivation gotta come from you.
Yeah. Motivation was only level 1. It was, so my framework is motivation, right? You are telling people what to do. You trying to imbue, insert energy into them, right? Inspiration, you showing them what you do. So they inspired by your moves. Education, you're teaching them how you actually did it, right? And the reason I had this step is because sometimes education is not detailed enough, so instruction. I got to give you a step-by-step process. I can't just give you the general information. And then the last step is where we are now in society, is automation. You understand me? I'm going to set the process up for you because I know otherwise there's a certain percentage of you that will just be left behind. And that's the harsh reality. So I've always said motivation without instruction is dangerous. So I created that framework because you can build a business, you can build a funnel, you can build any system you want to out of following that pathwork.
I like it.
You understand me? And when you're building something. So if I'm teaching, I'm going to start with the motivation, go to the inspiration, go to the education, go to the instructions. And if we have a way to be able to automate this process for you, we're going to do that as well.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.